calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
you for joining us. It's the Bill Press Show on Tuesday, May 17, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and our studio right here on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building. We can see them from here, and they can hear us from there. That's how close we are. Good to have you with us today. We got lots to talk about on this Tuesday. Yes, indeed, voters going to the polls. Big primary day again. Voters going to the polls in Kentucky with about, 61 delegates at stake. And voters going to the post office, if they haven't already done so, in the state of Oregon, where 74 delegates are at stake. Can Bernie Sanders win 4 in a row after Indiana and West Virginia? Looks good in Oregon. Kentucky may be closer. Meanwhile, yesterday here in Washington, a divided Supreme Court couldn't make up its mind. They only have 8 members now, of course. They couldn't make up their minds about what to do, about whether or not contraception ought to be covered under Obamacare. And so they decided to punt, and they sent it back to the lower courts, telling both sides to try to get together on this so we don't have to solve it ourselves. Ben Carson, meanwhile, remember him? He is now supposedly one of the leaders in Donald Trump's efforts to pick a vice presidential candidate. Carson put out a list yesterday which is totally ridiculous. It includes people who would never take the job, like John Kasich, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, somebody who would lust for the job, Chris Christie, and somebody who's on the list but Trump would never offer the job to, namely Sarah Palin. Lots to talk about today. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS or send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Join the fun.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, voters, get to the polls in Kentucky. Voters, get to the post office in Oregon. Another primary day. Hello, everybody. The Bill Press Show on this Tuesday, May 17. Hello, hello. Great to see you today. Thank you for joining us and being part of the program. The Bill Press Show, as we boom out to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and end up alongside of you right there on the radio, right there on television with you, wherever you are in the United States of America, coast to coast. Look around, we're right there on your local progressive talk radio station and on Free Speech TV. How about it? Ready to go. We got 3 hours to bring you up to date on all the news of the day. On the political front, the non-political front, Supreme Court making a big decision yesterday, deciding they did kind of what Congress does a lot. They decided, no, we're not going to make a decision. We're just going to throw this back, to delay. And
the punt.
Give it to somebody else to make a decision on. This was on whether or not the contraception should be covered under Obamacare in every health plan. And, of course, it should, no matter what the Catholic bishops and the Catholic nuns say. We'll cover that and the latest on the two big primaries today and where we go from here. And take a look at what you think about everything when you give us a call at 866-55-PRESS, our toll-free number. When you send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show with Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Good morning, Bill.
Yes,
Good
indeed.
morning. Here we are.
All right. How about it? Ray Rogers, give her a call at 866-55-PRESS. She'll grill you and put you on the air. And Cyprian Bolding, we're looking good on Free Speech and TawkrTV, thanks to our videographer, Cyprian Bolding. And, you know, it is going to be, if it's Hillary the nominee, you know, with Bill out there campaigning alongside of her, there's going to be a lot of talk about back to the future, right?
Yeah.
Back to the 90s when the Clintons ruled the White House, as Stephen Colbert pointed out last night. Just think of all the goodies that are going to come back.
Things were pretty good under Bill Clinton. Just imagine if we could bring back the 1990s.
Yeah.
I mean, together, Bill and Hillary will fight to get America online. With a vision as clear as Crystal Pepsi, our economy will wake from its Napster, take off like a white Bronco as they cut our taxes like Lorena Bobbitt and crush our enemies like Nancy Kerrigan's knees.
Remember all those things we kind of forgot about,
All
right?
those giant failures from the 90s, too, by the way.
Right. But, yeah, Crystal Pepsi. It's funny that crowd at the Colbert show even knew who, like...
I never had the opportunity to taste Crystal Pepsi. Did I
really
miss
missed
out?
buddy?
Or Lorena Bobbitt. I mean, how many remember her? And the skater Nancy
Kerrigan, Tanya Harding. Yeah, sure.
Right.
I remember that.
Yeah.
So anyhow, well, there'll be a lot of that kind of talk coming up. Get ready for it. Today, Tuesday, it's Arthur Delaney and Igor Volsky Day, and they will both be in for their Tuesday slot. Evan McMorris Santoro joining us a little bit later here in the studio with us as well. And Donald Trump, He's got his line of attacks ready against Hillary. Will they backfire? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Okay, so you're not going to find a bigger fan of national parks than me. I love the national park system we have here in America. But if you're going to go there, leave the animals alone. This is a story that comes from Yellowstone. As a father and son were driving through Yellowstone, and they found a bison calf that was wandering in the cold.
Yeah.
What would you do if you saw that?
Leave it there.
Leave it the hell alone. That is not what this father and son did. They took the bison calf and put it in the back of their car.
I know.
And drove it to
keep it warm.
To keep it warm, they took it to a ranger station to try and say, this needs some help. Well, here's the problem. They tried to reintroduce this calf back into the herd, and the herd would not take the calf because it had been interacting with humans. And so with that, the Yellowstone National Park put out a statement yesterday saying that they had to euthanize the little baby bison because it couldn't take care of itself. No one would take care of it. They couldn't take care of it at the park. Leave them alone if you go to the park. Just mind your business. Look, don't touch.
You know, our buddy Matt Vasilagambros posted another story. I didn't realize it's actually semi-common that people own bison as pets in their homes.
Really?
Yeah. In the Midwest.
That's crazy.
But come on.
Those are big animals.
Don't you know that song? Oh, give me a home where the buffalo roam.
Yeah. Oof. Yesterday, BuzzFeed had a big exclusive. They were going to have the very first Facebook Live interview with President Barack Obama. It's going to be led by our friend Chris Geidner. Here's the problem. Facebook didn't exactly deliver. Facebook Live video did not work. The stream failed. There is a backup plan, of course. They put it on YouTube, and they still link to it that way, but everybody was looking to see whether or not Facebook Live could handle the traffic, and it couldn't. Couldn't handle it.
Oh, man.
Yeah, not good. And how about this? Mike Webb is running.
They should have tried it with somebody else before they tried it with the president of the United States.
Good point. Yeah, Mike Webb is the name of a man running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th district. He would like your vote, and he was trying to take a screenshot of something that was on his computer to put on Facebook. Now, we know how that works. You just take a photo, a little screen grab of what happens on your thing. But what you got to be careful of is that you have the other tabs closed at the top of your browser. So when he was trying to post a little map of where people could go vote, at the top there was also
porn sites,
tabs open with porn sites. Yvonne Sexy Amateur and Layla Riviera Tight Booty were two pages that were also open on this computer. Now, we're not sure whether or not this it must have been hacked by the Chinese, right?
Yeah.
So that would happen before.
It's a very old school mistake, by the way. This is something that may have happened like 5 or 10 years ago. You don't do that anymore.
It's an Anthony Weiner mistake.
It's Weiner-esque. It's Weiner-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah. Close the tab. Don't tweet your porn.
All right, here we go. We started on the political front today on a couple of fronts. And first of all, did we have any drum roll music here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Da 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 da. Here it is in my hands. A vote for Bernie Sanders.
Oh, no. Yeah, nice.
There it is.
There
It's
you
my
go.
absentee ballot. Marked that last night. It's going in the mail today.
California.
Feel the burn
There
in
you go.
California.
I would maybe put that down since it's got your address on it there, buddy.
Oops, it does? Okay. Yeah. All right. Cyprian wouldn't show that. There it is. I'll put my finger
There you
over
go.
it. There it is. Yep. Signed on the back. Yep. That's the whole thing.
Nice.
There it is. So
there you go.
Bernie's got. We got a head start in California.
And your vote matters in California this time
right
around.
it does. Yes, our vote matters in California. So we got that out of the way.
Very
and
nice.
Today with the two primaries in Oregon, 74 delegates. Kentucky, 61. Both Bernie and Hillary were in Kentucky over the weekend. Hillary stayed there one more day. Bernie went off to Puerto Rico yesterday. Puerto Rico comes up next week on the 4th of June. 5th of June is Puerto Rico. They get 67 delegates. That's a big chunk. So Bernie went down there, more than Kentucky.
He had a big crowd there, by the way.
A big crowd. He did 2 or 3 events in Puerto Rico and said it's time we stop treating Puerto Rico like a colony.
The people of the United States cannot continue a colonial-type relationship with the people of Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, yeah, he really got that, didn't he?
Into it, right. Meanwhile, Hillary was in Kentucky. It's very close in Kentucky, by the way, and she wanted to be sure that Bernie doesn't win both states today. And she tried to make nice now to the coal people.
We do have to transition, but we need to take coal country and coal miners and their families with us and not leave them behind.
Which is better than saying we're going to put the coal miners out of business and make them lose their jobs, which cost her in West Virginia. Meanwhile, we talked yesterday about that really terrible article in the New York Times about Donald Trump's mistreatment of women, if you will. One of them, a former girlfriend, Roanne Brewerlane, yesterday made the rounds of the TV shows saying that she'd been misquoted. The New York Times promised her it was going to be a positive piece about Trump, not a hit piece, and that her comments about Trump would be reflected positively, which she says they were not. And she uses a word to describe Donald Trump that I think we've never heard from anybody else.
He's very much a gentleman.
No. What?
And he's polite, he's thoughtful, he's a good listener.
Yeah.
I think she was dating John Miller.
That's a new one. Gentleman.
He's very much a gentleman.
Yeah, no, I don't know about that.
Yeah. New definition of the word gentleman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Who said, she had blood coming from everywhere, right? Yeah, a gentleman.
He's very much a gentleman.
Mm-hmm. Which gets us to what I wanted to ask you about here to start off the day is the New York Times again reports today as that Donald Trump is planning his attacks on Hillary Clinton, he's assuming Hillary's going to be the nominee, and that looks likely, although not yet impossible for Bernie. I'm still for Bernie. Still think Bernie can do it. But if it's Hillary, Donald Trump is planning on how he will attack her in the debates. And one line of attack, and the first line of attack that the New York Times talks about, and I got a call from a conservative writer for a conservative paper yesterday asking me about this, so I know it's actually true that this is where they're going to go because the word is getting around. Going after Hillary Clinton and blaming her for Bill's affairs. In two ways. Number one, that she was the enabler. She knew what Bill was up to, and she didn't do anything about it to stop it, didn't protest, just kind of went along with it. And two, that she joined in efforts to tarnish the reputation of some of those women who claimed that Bill had either been had inappropriate relations with them or had an affair with them, or in the case of Juanita Broderick, even accusing Clinton of raping her. So blaming Bill's sins on Hillary, do you think it can work? 866-55-PRESS, would it work or would it backfire? 866-55-77-377. We have to destroy her story, is what allegedly Hillary Clinton said about one of those women. So I don't know about you, but I think this is a mistake on Donald Trump's part. Now, I want to repeat one point we made yesterday, Peter. We're talking old rules here, maybe. I'm not sure any of these old rules apply to Donald Trump, so I recognize that. And I also recognize that people may hate Hillary so much that they'll let Donald Trump get away with almost anything, as we have seen almost already, right? But I still think this is a mistake. I still think this line of attack would backfire in the general election. Might have worked in the primary for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's so long ago, right? This was what, 1998? All right?
Yeah.
So we're talking 20 years ago.
Yeah.
How many voters today were even around then, right? Or aware of anything that was going on? And you're really going to recreate all of that and bring back Monica and bring back Jennifer Flowers and bring back Juanita Broderick, and bring back there was some other woman from North Virginia. I forget her name. But really? Really? And people are going to care about that?
So as you said, it's been 20 years, and Bill Clinton still gets to show his face publicly. Hillary Clinton gets to run for office, and that's fine. It's that war has been won. It's over.
Bill Clinton's popularity was never as high nationwide as it was during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, because the American people said, all right, enough already. What he did was wrong, but it was not an impeachable offense. Get off it, particularly when it turned out that half the Republicans who were going after him in the Congress were having their own affairs, starting with Newt Gingrich, right? So we've been there. That battle has been fought, as you pointed out, Peter, has been fought and won, I believe. And it's so long ago. And I guess that's 1 and 2. And number 3 then is, I think people see it fundamentally unfair when a guy cheats on his wife to blame the wife for it. That's one of the oldest canards in the book, one of the oldest tricks in the book, right? And men always try to say, hey, I wouldn't be playing around, right, if I got more at home.
Yeah.
How many times have we heard that, right?
Yeah.
It is BS. It's wrong. It's piggish behavior. And it's fundamentally unfair. And I think men, and particularly women, see that as fundamentally unfair. And that Donald Trump had better be careful going down that road. I'm just saying. That's where, again, it's reported, it's confirmed, that's where he plans to go. In the debates, to raise this issue, even if reporters don't, because I don't think reporters will go there.
I don't think so.
I think they're going to try to really stick to the issues.
Yeah.
I would hope. But if Donald Trump apparently is going to raise those issues, that's what they're saying. Will it backfire? That's my question to you. 866-55-PRESS, blaming Hillary for Bill's sins. Will it work? Will it backfire? 866-55-PRESS. I want to hear from you on the Bill Press Show.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
This is the Bill Press Show.
At 26 minutes after the hour, Hillary, by the way, saying that she is going to kind of put Bill in charge of revitalizing the economy if elected. Bill Clinton, now the most popular politician on the planet. So again, I'm not sure the attack Donald Trump's plans to attack him for his affairs and blame it all on Hillary will work, but that's what they plan to do. Ike down in Charleston, South Carolina. Hello, Ike. What do you say?
Hey, morning. If you want to revitalize the economy, make it easier to get people in the unions, and we won't have a problem.
Thank you, my union brother. Yes.
Yeah, and I was consulting with my Tangerine Man voodoo shrine that I had set up in my room. It has things, like a tangerine with a nail through it, and I've got a roulette wheel there with a couple of snake eyes that roll around on it. And basically I spun it, and it said, no, it's not going to work. Because, back then people didn't care. At the time, they impeached him. He got better. He got even stronger. And if you stop and look at it, it follows the Christian tenet to forgive and forget. And she's a stronger woman because she held her family together, raised a beautiful daughter. And, that's more than I can say for the cheater who cheated on 4 different women, Mr. Tangerine Man.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't that compared? Isn't he just inviting, people to look at his own personal life that way, right?
Absolutely. And Hillary, all she got to do is take the high road, stick to the issues, and speak to labor, and talk about the good things coming, and she'll be okay.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's the answer, is don't get down there in the gutter and let Donald Trump just fall on his face on that. We see lots of more calls, and they're coming up.
This
Will it all
is
work?
the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine. Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour of the Bill Press Show, here we are in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, on our studio on Capitol Hill, reaching out to you coast to coast and brought to you today by the American Federation of Government Employees, the good men and women of the AFGE under President J. David Cox, keeping our federal agencies running every day, serving the American public, proud to work for America every day. Check out their good work at their website, afge.org. We're talking about whether or not Donald Trump's plans, duly reported in the New York Times, so they're not making any bones about it, that his first line of attack against Hillary Clinton, assuming she's the Democratic nominee, is to raise again remind everybody about Bill Clinton's affairs and sexual dalliances when he was president of the United States and blame it all on Hillary Clinton. Will it work? Will it backfire? 866-55-PRESS. And joining the conversation, Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post. That and other things to talk about. But Arthur, always good to see you.
Great to be here.
And as always, you get the prize for coming in early. Not many people make this early. This is the earliest we ever have a guest.
That's true.
And other than Arthur, who else? Maybe one other time, I think, huh?
I think you sort of take the cake there, Arthur.
Cake taken.
And you talk. So, what do you think on this line of attack?
Like a lot of things having to do with Donald Trump, it's completely ridiculous because look at who is making the attacks. A serial philanderer.
Yeah, right.
Whose wife, in the course of a divorce, said he raped her. And it's okay, you want to talk about this stuff? Fine.
Right.
You have incredible unfavorable ratings with women, and we can all focus on your horrible treatment of women if you want to talk about how men treat women. So I find it bizarre
that of all lines of attacks, he would use this one.
But
right?
he's doing it based on intuition because he says he rejects polling. He doesn't want to have strategists in his ear giving him like poll-tested plans for how to win over vote. There's no micro-targeting. It's just what he thinks will work based on his celebrity experience. It strikes me as an odd plan given his past.
The only thing that I could not agree with you more. The only thing that gives me pause is how he systematically belittled and destroyed every one of his 16 Republican opponents. And so there are things that work for Donald Trump that even I would think would never work for anybody else.
Right. He's got an intuition for publicly shaming.
Right.
So anything he wants to do, you should take seriously. But I just find this one curious in a way that his attacks on Republican men, were not quite so fraught.
It's another good point. This is a woman, not a man, that he's attacking. Well, he went after Carly a little bit, but mainly it was Little Marco and Lion Ted, right? And weak Jebby.
It was interesting though that when he did go after Carly Fiorina, it was because he went after her basically for being a woman, right? Called her ugly, insinuating she was ugly. He went after Megyn Kelly, and we don't have to go into what he sort of insinuated there.
Yeah.
Like, when he goes after women, he really goes after women.
It's vile and nasty.
It's really bad. It's
personal,
gross, yeah.
personal, and it's ugly. And so it's that. It's also 20 years ago. I mean, I really think that most voters today have either forgotten, but put that behind them, right? And Bill Clinton's more popular than ever. And then a lot of young voters today, they don't know who the hell they weren't around then. I mean, they were around, but they were, playing in their sandbox.
Yeah, I don't think it's off limits material.
No,
but we're talking about Hillary Clinton, not Bill. And I don't know. Wouldn't people consider it a stretch to blame her for his dalliances? Although I guess he does want to talk about her attacks on her husband's accusers. But again, it really makes you, if you're going to talk about this, Donald Trump,
of all people,
yeah, is a mistreater of women.
It's sort of like Mitt Romney going after Donald Trump for not releasing his tax returns, when that's exactly what Mitt Romney did not do in 2012.
Life is so strange.
It is. Politics particularly. Let's bring in Eileen from up in Boston. Hello, Eileen.
Hi, how you doing, Bill?
Hi. Backfire, yes or no? What do you think?
Oh, I think it's going to backfire major. It was so strange. They are so hypocritical. Reince Priebus was on TV all weekend, and all of his surrogates saying, don't pick on anything that happened 25 years ago with Trump. Leave him alone, let it be.
Yeah, right.
But all of a sudden, he can come after Hillary for that? I don't think so.
That's right. With the John Miller impersonating his publicist, right? They said, oh, yeah, that was like 25 or 30 years ago. So, right.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, right. And that's true. It was, right? But so was Bill, what Bill was doing.
Well, you actually have
That's an excellent point, Eileen.
You have to go back to understand Donald Trump, because what are the things he's been consistent about? Because he takes a whole host of policy positions now and discards them the next day. But there are a few things that have stayed the same. One of them is being mean and nasty to women. It's really a core Trump trait.
If you read that Sunday New York Times article about and they interviewed over a dozen women, the common theme is all of them is that he treated them like.
Yeah, and he has now gone
crap,
from attacking the New York Times for supposedly lying to attacking one of the individual women in the story. And the predictable result of that is that this woman will now be have abuse heaped on her by Trump's followers.
Oh yeah,
and she'll probably get death threats. And it's a pattern that he knows about and is happy with.
I saw a sign this morning on one of the cables. There was this crowd of supporters anyhow, and there was a woman carrying a sign, "Women for Trump," and I was just thinking, God, what a contradiction! Why? After the way he treats women and talks about them. Ron is down in Paisley, Florida. Hey, Ron, welcome.
Hey.
What do you think?
I think that it's not fair, but Donald doesn't pay fair. He's going to go after Hillary from everything from Whitewater on to Benghazi and servers. And personally, she has a lot of baggage, and that's why I think Bernie would be a better candidate.
I got it, Ron, but it looks like Hillary is going to be the candidate. And listen, he'll come up with other stuff to go after Bernie. I mean, he will have Bernie as the biggest communist or socialist that ever walked.
His nickname for Bernie, and Trump nicknames are important. His nickname for Bernie is Crazy Bernie Sanders.
Crazy Bernie Sanders. It's Crazy Bernie Sanders.
His nickname for Hillary is Crooked Hillary.
Right.
Which it goes after that baggage that Ron is talking about. And I think I had thought that would be Donald Trump's main line of attack. Crooked Hillary, the emails, she'll be indicted. But it's really something if he would go for the Bill Clinton stuff instead.
Yeah, I mean, I could see the emails, even though I don't think there's anything to it. I can see Benghazi, even though we've been over that over and over again, right? And there's I don't think any fault there on Hillary's part, but the personal Bill Clinton stuff is the stuff that I think is just not going to pay off for Trump, and I think would backfire. Again, Kevin out in Chicago, in the great WCPT in Chicago. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, good morning, Bill. Hey, I don't know exactly what anybody else said. I haven't been able to hear any of the other guests.
Well, I want to know what you say.
On hold. But anyway, so listen this way. He's gone through the primaries, and he's pissed off about 7 out of 10 women. So I guess he figures that he's going to approach the general. He wants to up that,
Yeah, right.
Let me say something stupid, Donald. It's the other way around. You want them to support you, So, hey, the bottom line is if it looks like a pig, it smells like a pig, and acts like a pig, it's got to be a pig. And I apologize to all the pig farmers in America that are listening for insulting your animals. They're actually quite tasty.
So it's
Kevin, you made our day. All right. Okay.
So maybe he follows the theory that Trump doesn't really want to be president.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to make himself unelectable. That theory is not looking too good lately, though.
He's doing his best to blow it. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I think Kevin may soon have his own talk show on WCPT.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was very professional quality. I should go home.
That was good. All right, one more call on this before we move on. We have other important stuff to talk to Arthur about. Oh, this is important
can stick
too.
With this, yeah.
Judy is in Mohawk, New York. Hi, Judy.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. And so's Arthur, and so's Peter here.
Yes,
We've got the whole gang.
Well, that's good. I'm a little scared, for one thing, that narcissistic, egomaniacal moron, pathological liar could actually have a chance of being president.
It's scary.
Yeah, there's a chance.
Very scary. And I was playing around Google last night, and I happen to think in September of 2009, he rented property to Muammar Gaddafi.
Oh, really? I had not seen that story.
No. Oh, Judy, go, Judy. Yes, indeed.
I'm telling you, and this guy has the unmitigated cojones to say that, I'm going to ban all Muslims and all that. Really?
Yeah, right.
Well, now Donald Trump would be happy to hear you describe him.
And now,
like, yes, I do.
Right, and now he's also the best friend of Vladimir Putin, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can just see him riding around on a horse with no shirt.
All right, Judy weighing in. Oh, this Gaddafi thing. I hope the Hillary campaign was listening, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I don't know, but I have never heard about that
Judy
one.
has some important information.
Yeah. By the way, I also think that the Clinton campaign is ready for these attacks. God knows they've been through them for 20,
I don't know.
For
Dangerous
20 years.
Donald.
Yeah, dangerous Donald. All right. Arthur, more stuff. We want to come back to Flint a little bit and get the update and more with Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post. Again, your call's welcome. We're on a roll here. 866-55-PRESS.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489 million, 856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explain that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift. My sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift. World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift. Grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors. Shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands. Heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
10 minutes before the hour, Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post here in studio with us. Igor Volsky from the Center for American Progress Action Fund coming up at 7 o'clock. You guys just cross paths every Tuesday morning here. Yeah.
Action team.
The action team. That's it. One thing that Hillary Clinton did say yesterday in Kentucky is that if she is lucky enough to be elected president, she's going to have a role for Bill. She's going to put him in charge of revitalizing the economy.
Oh.
But you know what? When you look back at the 90s,
yeah,
right? One other thing that Bill Clinton is famous for, not just the dalliances, is the fact that I think it was like 22 or 23 million new private sector jobs created under the Clinton economy.
Yes.
Pretty good record.
Yes, it was a long expansion. That's what economists call it.
Yeah, maybe the longest expansion, right?
At the time, it had been the longest since the World War II.
I guess the question is, I mean, he certainly did a good job on that front then, whether is the economy like the same today that what worked then would definitely work today?
Nope.
Yeah.
Sure wouldn't.
Right.
But also, it sounds like a fake job. Like they made Joe Biden the chairman of the middle class task force.
Right.
She's not talking about making Bill Clinton the chairman of her council of economic advisors.
Right, yeah.
So
and he would not be a member of her cabinet. She said that for sure.
Right. So, he'll really be in charge of stuff. In charge of 90s nostalgia.
I could see that Bill will probably say, what do you want me to do? Just stay home and bake cookies, right? That famous Hillary line. All right, now what's going on with you had a story yesterday about Mark Ruffalo out in in Flint?
And
The Hulk.
The Hulk. So there's this other Mark named Mark Edwards who is a civil engineer at Virginia Tech, helped blow the whistle on Flint's water.
The famous professor. He's been...
Yeah. And Mark Ruffalo is one of a lot of celebrities who are, trying to help with Flint. A lot of helps deliver bottled water, for example. Mark Ruffalo, very A-list actor, has this group called Water Defense, and they've been saying, we're doing our own testing of people's water in their homes and in their bathtubs, and we don't think it's safe for them to bathe necessarily. And so that is contrary to what the government had been saying. But people in Flint have continued to report rashes and skin problems from bathing, or so they think. And
even President Obama last week said it was okay.
Yeah.
Right? So who's right and who's wrong here?
Well, Mark Edwards has been trashing Mark Ruffalo on his blog, calling him an A-list actor but an F-list scientist, and saying that his statements about the potential risks of the water for bathing are not based on science. He shared with me an email chain he had with Mark Ruffalo's chief scientist, who Mark Edwards says is got no credibility whatsoever. And what made this more important was that Genesee County, which surrounds Flint, reported last week there's been a spike in gastrointestinal illnesses.
Oh, wow.
And this is something that happens when people aren't washing their hands.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So Edwards is saying he thinks there's a connection. It's not necessarily that Mark Ruffalo came in and discouraged people from bathing, but it's a fear that everyone has had, and one he has talked about it. And Ruffalo's group hasn't responded. They said they would respond in 48 hours on Sundays. We're still waiting to hear from them.
So, I mean, that's troubling, though, that there's this even uncertainty, which is certainly not good for the people of Flint. But, all right.
I would listen to Mark Edwards. He's been right like 100 times in a row.
I would agree with that. My inclination, I have great respect for him. And respect for you, Arthur. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll take a quick break. Back with Igor Volsky, top of the next hour.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Every day when I was 5, my older sister would play teacher. Her students were me, my stuffed rabbit, and an American Girl doll. She'd line us up at the end of the bed and teach us whatever she'd learned in school that day. Now she teaches ESL at an elementary school in Boston, and every week she tells me stories about her students. Anna does not know how to read in Spanish, much less English, but she still wants to be a writer when she grows up. Juan chooses to stay inside and study at recess so that one day he'll be able to teach his own brother. These kids are good organs in a sick body. In 2001, No Child Left Behind gutted bilingual education. Students who have been in the country for 1 year are now expected to perform at grade level on standardized English tests. My sister is not allowed to instruct them in Spanish. If the kids don't jump high enough, the school loses money. Improving a school by picking its pockets is like tuning a guitar by ripping off the strings. Learning to read in a new language before you can even read in your own is like learning to walk while a pit bull is chasing you. Like learning to sing with the conductor's fist down your throat. This year for my sister's birthday, I got books for her students. A poem on one page in Spanish, the next in English. She is not allowed to help them read the first. Their heritage is a banned book. Learning to read in a new language when you can't even read in your own is like trying to heal a burn victim by drowning them. We are telling these children who have spent their whole lives in the deep end that they'll learn how to swim if they just float out a little farther. In the 1980s, American slaughterhouses began building corrals in curves so no animals could see the blood at the end of the tracks. This is how we kept them moving forward. In 2001, we began building the hallways of our schools in curves. This is how we keep them moving forward. You never learn, you fail the test. You never learn, you fail the test. You never learn, you drop out. I know. I am lucky enough to be one of the winners of this game. I was handed a head start and a rule book in my own tongue, but the winners of a rigged game should not get to write the rules. On the television, some senator preaches that throwing money at an urban school is like feeding caviar to your dog. They just won't know how to appreciate it. After all, if these parents can't take care of their own children, why should we? Well, tell that to Anna, who has my sister translate newsletters aloud to her father because he too was never taught how to read. Tell that to Juan, whose mother and baby brother are still in Guatemala, whose father works 3 jobs. My sister tells me school is the most stable place in these kids' lives. She has been a teacher since she was smaller than they are. But since when does being a teacher mean having to swear not to help? Since when does being a teacher mean having your hands tied while the schoolhouse burns to the ground? We are leading these children along a track built in circles as their lungs fill with smoke, telling them it is their fault. They can't find a way out.
Dylan Garrity from Slam MN.
All right, here we go. Wrapping up this first hour here, Igor Volsky from the Center for American Progress Action Fund coming up at the top of the next hour. And then we're going to talk to a pharmaceutical company from North Carolina that says they are going to stay in North Carolina and fight the battle against HB2 from inside the state of North Carolina, which is a different take than some of the other businesses have taken. All of that coming up in our next hour together here on this Tuesday edition of the Bill Press Show. Primary
This
day
is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important. That's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go again, another primary day. Voters to the polls in Kentucky. Voters to the post office in Oregon. If you haven't already been there, hello everybody. It's The Bill Press Show, and you are part of it. Thank you for being part of it, actually. On this Tuesday, May 17, as we reach out to you all across this great land of ours from our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., right here in the heart of the action. Well, actually, there's not much action in Washington these days, but we are on top of the action wherever it is. We'll tell you all about it, and we want to hear from you what you think about it and what it all means to you. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. We know why you are there at this hour, and Prince Igor does not disappoint. I mean, like, over the top today. He even wore a jacket and tie.
That's right.
For his fans today.
That's right. By popular demand, clearly, people say you look like a schlub.
I didn't recognize
Wear
you
something nice. I said, okay.
I thought it was somebody important.
What do you have to go to court later on today?
People are often very confused. What?
I said, do you have to go to court later on today or something?
No. I have an event after work,
Yeah.
and so it's one of those things where I have to look nicer after work than I do during work, and so during work, people will be coming up to me and said, "What is going on with you?"
Yeah, all day.
Your hair?
All
what are
day.
You doing?
All day you're going to hear this.
I
right?
know, all day long. I know, but I rarely wear a tie, and I sometimes do enjoy that. So, I usually actually wear a tie on a regular day when I'm really tired and I want to kind of give myself that little boost. I wear a tie, but today I do it because I have an event.
All right, ties
Just
are kind of going out. You noticed?
I couldn't disagree more.
I mean,
I think
never
I rarely ever wear ties. I mean, only when I go to court.
Yeah, of course.
But I see a lot of ties. Ties are still okay.
Frequent occurrence for you? Got a lot of problems. I understand.
But you see President Obama more and more without a tie.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
Right. I mean, and not just when he's playing golf, but just more and more events, and so I think it's. You're bucking the trend, Igor.
That's right.
You're keeping the tie alive, right? And with our team here, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Here we are.
What do you say?
Hey.
Ray Rogers here on your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding on the video cam. Everything looking good this morning. Yesterday, Hillary, last-minute campaigning in Kentucky, and she sort of let her hair down, and instead of attacking Donald Trump, she just gave her impression of Donald Trump.
Oh.
They're going to be great. I know how to do it, but I'm not telling you what it is I'm going to do. And I'm going to say, here's what we're going to do, here's what we're going to do, here's where we're going to change the tax code, here's what we're going to incentivize people to do it.
I think she ought to stick to the issues myself.
I don't know. I don't think that's so Really? You know what?
That's terrible.
It's obviously not a good impression of the way it sounds, but if you're running against Donald Trump, right, and your argument is he's running around telling you what you want to hear, but he doesn't actually do anything, right? That's a pretty good way to get it across.
Well, that's a good point, but the impression, I think.
I mean, maybe you had to be there.
Maybe,
in the room to really feel it, see it, experience it.
That's the kindest possible approach, Igor.
I'm a kind man. In my suit and jacket.
Yeah, look at you.
I've heard some good impressions of Donald Trump.
Sure.
Yeah, seen some, and that's not one of them. So, 10 minutes after the hour. And with Igor here, we will find out more about the Supreme Court decision yesterday. When we said there's no action in Washington, D.C., they proved it yesterday, didn't they?
Exactly.
But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. You know, Twitter, Igor, you're a big deal on Twitter.
I know Twitter,
You're
yes.
a big deal on Twitter. Twitter is changing things up a little bit.
Oh, no.
10 million
Kicking
I
me
know,
off.
right? This guy. So here's the thing. So when you just send a tweet and you add a photo, right, it will count towards your 140 characters. It's a certain amount depending on the photo. So
Yes.
Like it usually takes out about like 14 characters or whatever out of your 140 characters. But that will change. That will change. Photos and links will no longer count as part of your 140
Really?
characters on Twitter. So if you put a link that is, you know, a long link, it takes out of your character count. No more, says Twitter. They're going to change that so you can post a link, post a photo, and then on top of that, you will still have your 140 characters.
See, I don't like that.
I'm against this.
I'm against it because it forces you to be pithy. You have to frame the photo. The photo has to go with the text. They go together. You don't need a lot of text if you have a photo. That's the whole point of adding the photo.
That's
a fair point.
Could not agree with that more. I think it's
appeal
perfect.
this.
I think it's perfect. I think Twitter is great how it is. I don't know why they want to mess it up.
Maybe I will go to court today
There
and
you go.
appeal this
Fight
in
this.
court.
Yeah. When you go to McDonald's, not you, because I know you don't go to McDonald's, but if you are someone who goes to McDonald's, when you go to McDonald's, the beef that you're eating is flash frozen burger patties.
Yes.
Doesn't necessarily mean that it's fresh beef or anything like that, but it's just flash frozen beef patties. They're frozen when they're ground, and they're reheated in the store 2 to 3 weeks later, okay? That's how you get your burgers.
Go to Five Guys.
Unless you go to the McDonald's
Fresh.
in the
Five
Dallas
Guys.
area. In
Fresh.
Dallas, at 14 different Dallas McDonald's, they've been testing fresh beef patties since November, right? So they're trying to say that they're going to roll out fresh beef, never frozen, which is what Five Guys does. It's what In-N-Out does.
right.
It's what a lot of these cultish chains do. is
So
they never
do you
freeze
do
their
you
beef.
taste the difference?
Well, no one has noticed.
Oh.
That's the thing. Which McDonald's is actually touting as a good thing. They're saying that they can now do this everywhere, but if it's easier and cheaper for them to do it frozen, they might do that if no one's actually paying attention.
All right. That says all you need to know about the people who eat at
Oh.
McDonald's.
Yes, exactly. And folks, be careful because our bad posture is really, really, really bad. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Someone once told me you want to feel like someone's lifting you up by the collar of your shirt.
Yes.
You want to always be upright. Well, there's a new study that talks about how bad this stuff is, especially when it comes to working in front of a computer or working on social media on your phone. We're hunched over all the time. And now what they say that if you're walking, you usually sort of force into having good posture when you walk, but people are walking and texting now, and so they're hunched over, their shoulders are slouched, and it's not good for us. So even if you're going to use your social media while you walk, try and have it out in front of you. So just be careful.
That's called the BlackBerry syndrome, by the way.
Is it really the
I used to
BlackBerry
see
syndrome?
It on college campus at GW. Every single girl walking around with their BlackBerry like this.
Like this, yeah. You got to be careful with this thing.
Well,
Sit up straight.
Don't text and drive.
Don't text and drive.
Don't text and walk.
Yeah.
The only
I agree
answer,
with that. I
right?
agree with that.
People walk into poles, walk into traffic.
But not only that, we're now getting hunchbacks because of the whole thing. So you
very
can really
important.
hurt
Sit up
yourself in a
straight.
lot of different ways.
Thank you.
A friend of mine is.
I know.
So straight. How long will
I feel
we?
like after that story, I can't
Yeah.
slip.
All right, 14 minutes after the hour, the Supreme Court with a big decision yesterday that could have really poked a great big hole in Obamacare. And they decided, Igor?
They decided to just punt. They literally said to the lower courts, you guys figure it out. Now, this goes back to the contraception provisions of Obamacare, which say that contraception should come with zero cost sharing for women. So the price of the contraception
As part of your health
is
care
part
policy.
of the premium.
Right, yeah.
Now, you'll remember there was a little case called Hobby Lobby. Was it last year? 2 years ago now?
Couple years ago.
2 years
Yeah,
ago?
At least 2, not 3.
Where religiously affiliated, closely held private corporations sued and said it's against our religious belief to provide certain kinds of contraception. And the court...
To our employees.
To our employees, that's right. And the court, in a big ruling, said, you are right. But what we can do is, instead of forcing you, religiously affiliated employer or closely held corporation, instead of forcing you to provide these contraceptive devices that you are so against because of your religion, the Obama administration, luckily, has worked out a compromise that if you're such a corporation, all you have to do is kind of check off a box and say, I don't want to provide the service. It's against my religious belief. And then the Obama administration on its own would work with your insurer to provide those services without your involvement and without you having to pay for it. And you'll remember in that Hobby Lobby decision, the justices said, oh, what a great compromise this is. And over time, it's evolved to the point where these businesses don't even have to check anything off. They just kind of like say it verbally, and the arrangements are made for them. Well, here we are with new businesses saying that that's not good enough. That even Catholic hospitals saying that even by affirming that we don't want to provide these services, it somehow infringes on our religious beliefs.
Yeah.
The workaround that the Supreme Court itself touted as a great success, they say, is not good enough. And so yesterday, you had a unanimous decision to do, well, nothing at all, with the Supreme Court saying we didn't decide this case on its merits. We are instead punting it to the lower courts and hoping they can work out a better compromise than the no box check compromise, and somebody else arranges the coverage that they now currently have.
Because the reality would have been that the court probably would have split 4-4, right?
That is a possibility.
No, yeah, I mean, I think they saw that coming. So it reflects the fact that what the Senate is doing in preventing a ninth justice from being even heard, let alone confirmed, is interfering with the work of the court.
Interfering in a sense that a court cannot solve these hard-pressed cases. It cannot establish precedent if it did have a 4-4 decision. It would simply, now if there was a 4-4 decision, it would send it back. There'd be no federal precedent set, and so different parts of the country, different circuits would have different precedent.
Right.
And you would kind of have this
would not have been
quilt
resolved.
effect.
It would have been.
It would not have been resolved.
Yeah.
And so it feels like, yes, I mean, we don't know for sure, obviously, but it feels like they could not make a decision, and so they said, lower courts, you figure it out.
The thing that bugs me about this mostly is the fact that these people, I believe, are just dead wrong. Contraception is a health policy issue. It should be covered by health insurance, and it has nothing to do with religion as far as
and the good news is,
particularly for the Catholic hospitals, the Catholic bishops opposed Obamacare in the beginning.
Yes.
Because, they think it's going to encourage people to have abortions or encourage people to use contraception. I mean,
despite, you'll remember, bending over backwards by Democrats, Bart Stupak, congressman from, Michigan, who is no longer in the Congress, worked out an entire compromise where abortion coverage wouldn't really be part of the exchanges. It would be funded in a different way.
It was
they still opposed it, yes.
I know. Big part of the discussion about Obamacare. And the fact is, that bothers me as a Catholic. The Catholic Church is just lost. They've lost this battle. 95% of Catholic women in the United States use some form of birth control. So the bishops are just dead wrong on this. They've lost this war, and they're trying to take it out on President Obama and gutting the Obamacare or gutting Obamacare to accomplish what they've never been able to accomplish in the Congress. And they're taking it all the way to the Supreme Court. And damn it, the Pope ought to tell them to knock it off.
Well, Bill, I'm hearing a new book, Catholic's Remorse. What do you think? No, this is great.
Well, he's pissed off the White House. Might as well piss off the Vatican.
I would not piss off the Vatican with this. This Pope, I believe, if he had a choice, would not be behind this lawsuit at all.
Catholic's remorse. I see it now.
And I don't think he is, at any rate. All right. Well, again, which underscores the importance of getting Merrick Garland a hearing, getting him confirmed, or somebody confirmed, right?
Yeah, and making sure that the court can function as it has intended to, which is 9 justices who can establish federal precedent. The good news here, though, is that women who are employees of these religious corporations, I guess as they're now called, can still receive birth control under the old arrangement because nothing changes until they come to this new compromise of some sort that would even make it less burdensome than it currently is for these companies to provide birth control.
Right. I just wonder whether you could sue. This is a total wild theory, but whether you could sue the Republicans in the Senate for preventing one of the three branches of government from functioning. I mean, can the legislative branch prevent the judicial branch from doing its job, from doing its job? They are doing so.
We should note that there's another Obamacare case. Speaking of not functioning, another Obamacare case that's making its way through the courts that last week the House Republicans scored a big victory in ruling a certain kind of premium support, some kind of cost-sharing support that's part of Obamacare unconstitutional because the dollars that are used to help people afford insurance were not appropriated, the court found, by Congress, but were simply kind of pumped through by the executive. That was the court's finding. Of course, the Obama administration is challenging that and saying that that there is authority for these kinds of dollars, but it's as a support that goes to insurance companies and then passed on as savings to consumers. And if this case moves forward and the House Republicans are successful, it's going to increase healthcare costs for people.
All right, Igor Volsky here with us from the Center for American Progress Action Fund. And John Kasich yesterday. Is he going to be tempted by offers to run as vice president or maybe to run as a third-party candidate? Into that when we come back.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now.
As a mom.
As a dad.
As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, Igor Volsky, Center for American Progress Action Fund. Igor, do you think there will be, Mitt Romney is trying to organize, a third-party candidate to run against Donald Trump, to block Donald Trump? I'll tell you one person who has been asked but will not be a candidate, John Kasich, talking to Anderson Cooper on CNN last night.
I've had a phone call with somebody that wanted me to run, consider running as third-party candidate.
Are you considering running?
No, I'm not going to do that. No.
Why?
Well, I think that I gave it my best where I am. And I just think running third-party, it doesn't feel right. I think it's not constructive.
Anybody do it?
Well, they're having a hard time, and these are, of course, Republicans who are still in the Never Trump camp. People like Bill Kristol, big success, he is. Mitt Romney, another big Republican success, are looking for somebody to run. John Kasich is saying no, and I think smartly so. It might turn out that Mitt Romney feels like he has to jump into the race as well. But that, too,
I hope so.
poses a challenge. And the big challenge here is, A, money, obviously, B, infrastructure. You're starting at zero in June, July. And C, ballot access. I mean, you can't get on the Texas ballot anymore. It's a big state. So it's going to be a real challenge. You're going to need somebody who can self-fund this thing, who has a lot of money. Money is another obstacle. Will they find that Republican who, in many ways could actually toss the election to Hillary Clinton and take away votes from Trump?
Right.
And do you want to have that hanging over your head as a Republican? What kind of future is that going to give you?
It would ensure that Donald Trump loses and the Democrat wins, right? That's right. What it's really all about. How good to see you, my man.
Good to see you.
See you next week.
This
Igor
is
Volsky.
the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks.
36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, Tuesday, May 17, The Bill Press Show. Live from Washington, D.C., brought to you today in part by Amalgamated Bank. Yeah, a bank with progressive values. I know, sounds like a contradiction in terms, but it's not. For almost a century now, Amalgamated's actually been the first choice bank of progressive organizations and individuals nationwide. As you'll find out when you go to amalgamatedbank.com. Look, most of us bank online now, seldom walk into a bank. So you can do all your banking from anywhere in the country at Amalgamated and be a proud progressive at the same time. Amalgamatedbank.com. Speaking about progressive companies, a lot of companies in North Carolina, after the North Carolina legislature passed and the governor signed the notorious and just, what's the word, unconstitutional HB2 and discriminatory HB2, a lot of businesses says, we are either going to move out of North Carolina or not expand here in North Carolina because we disagree with this move. But here's one business that has taken just the opposite approach to stay and fight HB2. I'm talking about Braeburn Pharmaceuticals. Made this big announcement just today, I guess. And we have now on our news line the president and the CEO of Braeburn Pharmaceuticals, Beshad Sheldon. Hi, Ms. Sheldon. Nice to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So why did you make the decision to stay in North Carolina when other people are saying we're going to leave?
From the beginning, we were in quite a quandary because obviously, as you said, we think this law is completely unjust and absolutely needs to be overturned. But at the same time, Durham County, where we will be placing our facility, has already spoken out. The people have spoken out against this law, and this is where the jobs would be. And to us, it seemed really unfair to penalize the people who are against this law by pulling out. And as we continued to think about it, we had a meeting with the Attorney General, Ron Cooper, who really pleaded with us that it would be far better to stay and fight from within than to protest by leaving. Shortly after that, the Department of Justice suit came about, and
Right.
President Obama's directive to all the schools. And we started to realize that this is becoming, as actually in a conversation with with Governor McCrory, that this has become an issue that is national in scope and very likely will get addressed by the courts. We think highly likely in the right direction. But regardless, that it would be better for us to stay and fight from within, become part of the Chamber of Commerce, sit there at the table, voice our opinion, fight for the people who need our help, and change the law one way or another.
Has the State Chamber of Commerce come out against HB2?
I know that certainly the city of Charlotte and Durham County have.
Right. I didn't know whether I know many businesses have. I didn't know whether the chamber have. You mentioned you met with the Attorney General Roy Cooper, who's running against Governor McCrory for governor of North Carolina, and picking up a lot of support on this issue. Correct?
It does sound like it's becoming a big issue in North Carolina, as it probably ought to be, obviously, but among many other issues that I imagine people from North Carolina will care about during the election.
And what pharmaceutical drugs does Braeburn offer and produce?
We are innovating new options, including a 6-month implant for people who are suffering from the disease of opioid addiction. So we know a little bit of something about stigma and about people who are discriminated against in this country. It's actually become a civil rights issue with people who suffer from opioid addiction. They don't get the same kind of care, the same kind of treatment, the same kind of access to medicine that other people do. So that's why this issue was so near and dear to our hearts and why we care about it so much. We do think that as a society, we are judged by how we treat the people who are most vulnerable in our country. And that includes the 15-year-old transgender girl who would be forced to go into the boys' bathroom. And in the end, we decided what good would we do her by leaving versus staying and fighting.
And I guess with the opioid addiction, I mean, there are, like in every state, but certainly a lot of people in North Carolina and even in Durham County, right, particularly maybe who need that kind of help.
It's unfortunately an absolutely countrywide problem. Opioid addiction is now in every community. 4 out of 5 Americans say they know someone personally who is struggling with it or has suffered from it in the past. And we, I think, have all come to the realization that this is a terrible disease that needs to be treated as one. And I think that we will certainly try to make the products available everywhere in the country, and obviously not just in North Carolina, but it's a problem everywhere in the country.
Again, we're talking with Beshad Sheldon, who's the president and CEO of Braeburn Pharmaceuticals down in Durham County in North Carolina. They're announcing today that they've decided they're not going to abandon North Carolina in a protest over HB2. They're going to stay there and fight from within. Beshad, I must say, I'm reminded of a friend of mine who is a nun. Well, we've had our sister Simone Campbell here on our show several times, and I asked her, why do you stay in the Catholic Church when you disagree with so many of its policies? And she says, No, I'm going to stay and fight from within because I believe in that. And so you're making you've made a similar decision for your company. Are you going to? I'm interested in what you hear from other CEOs and other presidents of other companies when you talk to them. Are they torn about this? Are some of them deciding with you to stay there and fight, or what are you hearing?
Everyone has to make their own decision, obviously, and people have different priorities and are in different stages of their work. And so we've really heard all sides of the issue. Some people do think that it's important to protest by leaving, and others, like us, feel that it's more important to stay and fight from within to change injustice. We definitely have a social justice mandate as well as a business mandate and a mandate to bring medicines to people who are suffering from opioid addiction and other mental health disorders. So for us, it's important to stay and fight.
Yeah. I understand the I applaud some of the people like Bruce Springsteen and Pearl Jam and others who decided not to hold a concert there. But at the same time, you really are making the people of North Carolina suffer, right, because of the stupidity, if you will, or the intolerance by some elected officials, and that's not fair. Plus, I think this thing is going to pass pretty soon.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I have a friend of mine who lives in North Carolina, and she runs several well-regarded restaurants.
Yeah,
and she hates this law, but she sort of has waged a war and said, like, I want them to know that there are good people here, and we will provide service to whoever you are, right? And you still have to take care of the people in North Carolina who don't agree with this law, and that's why this is such a tough issue. I really do see both sides here.
And that's the decision you've come to, Bashad, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Both the Attorney General and the Governor spoke about the fact that this is not necessarily reflective of North Carolina and what the people of North Carolina bring to the table. And for us, the talent pool in Durham County especially was really important. And so why penalize them rather than have them join forces with us and fight this from within?
Yeah, as bad as it is, that I think this cannot stand. It's either going to be overturned by the courts soon, or with enough pressure from the Department of Justice and businesses like yours, the legislature is going to have to reverse itself, as will the governor. Well, I applaud you for what you're doing. I'm sure the people of North Carolina are pleased to hear of your decision from Braeburn Pharmaceuticals, and good luck bringing some other businesses around to your point of view. Thanks so much, Bashad. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Bashad Sheldon is the president and CEO of Braeburn Pharmaceuticals. That's BRAE Burn, Braeburn Pharmaceuticals.com.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. My whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Here we are. It is 12 minutes now before the top of the hour, and today, primaries in Kentucky and Oregon. Kentucky weighing in with 61 delegates at stake for Democrats, and Oregon for 74. Before we move into that, Matthew, calling from Minneapolis with a comment about what's up down in North Carolina. We were just talking to Bashad Sheldon, president of Braeburn Pharmaceuticals, about it. Hello, Matthew.
Hi, Bill.
Hi.
You made a comment to your last guest about how people shouldn't have to suffer because of their politicians make bad decisions. And I think the exact opposite. I think all good Democrats should suffer because they don't go out and vote on off-year elections, and they should have to live with the consequences for who gets elected, the cretins that they elect. Up here in Minnesota, we don't elect that many cretins that they control our state. And therefore, I think people need to suffer and live with the consequences of who they elect and then they might not elect those people anymore.
Yeah, I hear you, and I've made the same argument myself. I must admit. I mean, particularly Matthew, the thing I have zero tolerance for is people who do not vote, or people who think sometimes not voting in itself is a statement. And we do deserve to get stuck with the cretins that somehow we elect. At the same time, in this situation in North Carolina, I really look again. I admire Bruce Springsteen and others for canceling their concerts there, but I also admire what Braeburn Pharmaceuticals has done. That some people, if all the good people leave North Carolina, which would never happen, but if too many businesses go out and there's too much economic suffering, then the bad guys win. I'm afraid
it's a really, really tough situation. Like, I'm all for people like Bruce canceling their concerts. They don't live there. It makes the people that are there, that are the good people who see it,
think about it,
fire them up.
Yeah,
fires them up.
Right.
I know a lot of people in North Carolina who were flat out mad about that, and they're good people. But at the same time, if you're the governor of a state like this, it's pretty easy to insulate yourself when all the criticism you hear is from people outside of your state.
Right.
So if you do have those people inside the state rising up and saying, this is not us, that's the hashtag, that's what everybody says, this is not us. Those members of North Carolina who disagree with this is not us. Has a lot more effect.
Yeah. So, Matthew, I'm not going to disagree with you. I do think that the two situations are different. You're talking about a business which is located there and employing people, and you got jobs and families at stake. That's one thing. But I certainly agree with you. Zero tolerance for anybody who does not vote in every single election. And that's a particular problem for Democrats in midterm elections. And that's how the Republicans took over the House. That's how they got the Senate. And damn it, it's your right. It's your duty to get out there and vote. Thanks, Matthew, for the call. By the way, again, the two primaries in Kentucky and Oregon today. Yesterday, Bernie Sanders he had been in Kentucky Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday night, flew to Puerto Rico, which comes up on June 5 with actually 67 delegates at stake. And Bernie yesterday said the United States has to stop treating Puerto Rico like a colony.
The people of the United States cannot continue a colonial-type relationship with the people of Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico? Yes. And Hillary Clinton, who spent an extra day in Kentucky, she really would like to wants to win Kentucky, stop her losing streak. And while it's sort of taken for granted, maybe people expect Bernie to win in Oregon, Kentucky, it could go either way. And yesterday, staying in Kentucky, she went out of her way to say, I really do like people who work in the coal industry.
We do have to transition, but we need to take coal country and coal miners and their families with us and not leave them behind.
Right. And again, it's Kentucky and Oregon today. The Virgin Islands on June 4, Puerto Rico June 5, and then comes the big enchilada with California, New Mexico, New Jersey, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Montana.
Oh, boy.
All on June 7. Yeah, we see some light at the end of the tunnel here.
It's coming, man. It's going to be here before we know it.
You got it. All right.
And then the real fun starts.
That's it. President, by the way, here it is. My ballot. On its way to California.
There you go.
There it is. Bernie Sanders, one vote for you in California. Put in the mail today. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad.
As a friend.
As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Would you believe it? There are some Democrats in Congress who now say, hey, we think Trump is a guy that we could do business with and we could work with. Sungmin Kim from Politico, congressional reporter, comes in the third hour here to tell us all about it. We'll also be joined by Evan McMorris-Santoro from BuzzFeed. You see him as a frequent guest host here. He'll be along as well in the next hour in studio with us. So couple good reasons there for staying tuned on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, or at 5 o'clock Eastern on Free Speech TV, hour number 3.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, there are two signs that the campaign has sort of taken over the political landscape in this country today, that all the action is no longer at the White House. And those two signs are, one, when you go to the briefings, there are a lot of empty seats these days. And when you look at the president's schedule, there's not a lot going on. Take today, for example. The president has one thing on his schedule. He gets a daily briefing at 10:30 this morning. No other meetings, public or private, that have been announced for today. That doesn't mean, he's just going to be on the video games all day. But, again.
It was a nice day out yesterday. It may be a little rainy today. Maybe he's going to find some time to do something else.
No activity other than getting the briefing. And Josh Earnest, regular briefing at 12:45 today. But I'll be on my way up to New York to join you on CNN tonight at midnight East Coast time to talk about Oregon and Kentucky.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
all the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
2 primaries today. Tuesday. It's got to be Tuesday. Got to be primaries. Yes, in Kentucky and in Oregon. Can Bernie make it 4 in a row? Hello, everybody. What do you say? It's Tuesday, May 17. So good to see you today. Lots going on, and we will bring you up to date on all of it here on The Bill Press Show. That's our job. Your job is to tell us what it all means to you, and you know how to do so. Thank you for joining us. Now give us a call and really be part of the program by chiming in at 866-55-PRESS, our toll-free number. Or check out those 2 great radio apps, iHeartRadio or TuneIn, if you're not lucky enough to have a progressive radio station near you. Again, iHeartRadio or TuneIn. And if you're watching on TV, we welcome you as well on Free Speech TV. Congress. They're a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Not getting a lot done, but whatever it is, it keeps Sungmin Kim busy. She's a congressional reporter for Politico, but it takes time out to join us in studio this morning. Hello, Sungmin. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, too. Always a pleasure.
Thanks for coming in, right? Congratulations. Recently married since we've seen you. Yes, very nice.
Thank you.
And you honeymooned in Brazil?
I did. We did, yeah.
You
right before all the riots broke out over the
but how about Zika? I mean,
lots of bug spray. We were fine.
Oh,
no bug bites.
lots of bug spray. That's it.
Yeah.
Packed for the honeymoon. Lots of
We were very prepared. Yeah.
Guess you have to be. Were people down there worried? Did you have any?
No, we took a food tour, and one of our tour guides was very kind of nonchalant about it. He's like, "Yeah, one of my colleagues had Zika a couple weeks ago, but she's fine." So, yeah. Very laid back, casual attitude. So, but
way more casual than I am about it. Just listening to it, it's so scary.
But it is serious. And actually, speaking of Zika, the Senate's going to vote on some Zika proposals later today.
Oh, nice.
They're kind of getting the train going on the president's request that he made some time ago for emergency funding. And there's still obviously a lot to do before some bill can get to the president's desk. But at least it's kind of like the first shot.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yep. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit with you. I'll talk more about that. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson here for sure.
Hello, Bill.
Good morning.
Here we are. Yes. Ray Rogers on the team as well. Of course, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And rounding out the team, Cyprian Bolding, the man you never see, but the man who keeps us. That you see us because of the work of Cyprian Bolding. How am I trying to say it? I'm not really sure. But by the way, Sungmin, there's a big story in the New York Times Sunday about how badly Donald Trump treats women. An interview with over a dozen women who've been girlfriends or whatever.
Workplace associates.
All of that kind of stuff. And now one of the women is fighting back, saying she was misquoted. She didn't mean to say anything bad about Donald Trump, in fact. And she said, she used a word to describe Donald Trump that nobody has ever heard before.
He's very much a gentleman. And he's polite, he's thoughtful, he's a good listener.
A gentleman. Donald Trump?
Polite, thoughtful, good listener.
Calling women dogs.
What bizarro world are we living in?
Yeah, right.
God.
If she considers him a gentleman, I'd hate to think of some of the other guys she went out with.
Yeah.
Right?
And what has to be pointed out, too, I mean, she's going on all these shows saying the New York Times misquoted her, and yet she has not been able to point to what exactly she was misquoted. I think her main beef is that there's a clear negative spin to the anecdotes that she shared with the New York Times reporters, but that's not misquoting.
The tone, I think, is what she said.
Exactly.
She was told that the tone was going to be a positive tone. Well, when all these women say all this negative stuff, it's hard to get a good positive tone out of it, right? Okay. Exactly. 10 minutes before the hour, after the hour, Sungmin Kim here for the first half hour, and then we will be joined by a member of our team here, Evan McMorris Santoro, in studio with us as well. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of the stories making news. So you've seen the drink Sierra Mist, right? It's the Pepsi version of Sprite. It's their lemon lime soda, although it's no longer even available. You cannot get Sierra Mist. It has changed. It's now called Mist Twist, and this is not good. it's not all natural anymore. They have loaded it with high fructose corn syrup. Now, it used to be an all natural soda. These lemon lime sodas can usually get around. There you go. What are you doing over there? What are you mixing up over there? Good grief.
Don't worry about it.
God, it sounds like you're dumping a body over there. So they used to be a natural soda, and they've gotten rid of all of that. So now it's high fructose corn syrup, and again, it's no longer Sierra Mist. It's Mist Twist. Fans are not happy. No word as to whether or not Pepsi will bring it back in any kind of way.
I don't like that title.
I don't
either.
like it either. I don't like it either. At the 93rd annual meeting of the American Law Institute in Washington, D.C. over the weekend, they had a very special speaker, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, and she said something very interesting that a lot of judges should listen to. She said that all lawyers should be required to provide pro bono legal representation to low-income clients. She says that when you get out of law school, you're immediately consumed with making money because you have all that debt to pay, and that law schools don't emphasize enough that what young lawyers can do is really help people who don't have enough money to pay for a good lawyer. And
Good
she
for
says
her.
that
Good for
it
her.
should be mandatory. If you want to be a lawyer, you should volunteer your time to people who need it.
Absolutely.
So that was interesting. A good take for her to
It
have.
might actually improve the reputation of lawyers, too.
Yeah, there you go. And in North Carolina, in Lincoln, North Carolina, an area I'm not aware of, but there's a Lowe's. You've seen Lowe's, home improvement stores. And they have a little garden area. So one worker was getting the garden area ready for customers to come in and buy their plants, buy their trees and all of that. And she was actually bitten by a copperhead snake that was inside of the tree, like in the branches of the tree. The worker's okay. They got her to the hospital. Everything is fine. But the fire department had to come out, had to get the snake, bag it up, take it out of the store. But it had come in on the tree. So if you're shopping at a garden, nursery, trying to find some plants, be careful where you put your hand.
I am never buying plants.
I know. Isn't that scary? I do that all the time, though. If I go and buy stuff, I just grab it and walk. Could be something living in there.
No, that's pretty scary. Yeah. Whoa. Copperhead climb trees.
Yeah, one more thing to worry about. They can climb trees.
Now, so Donald Trump dominating the news, and Donald Trump, now that he is definitely, it's going to be one of the two presidential nominees, it is not impossible, it's ungodly to think of, but not impossible that he could win, which raises a question about how could he ever deal with members of Congress. You actually had a surprising result when you started talking to some members about that.
Yeah, so there's a lot that's been written about Trump's relationship with congressional Republicans, but we started thinking, what about Democrats? If Trump is elected president, he's going to have to work with Democrats, particularly Democrats in the Senate. And so we wanted to talk to them and see how they felt, and we got some pretty interesting comments, and they're mostly coming from those moderate Senate Democrats. We talked to Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, John Tester of Montana, who say, we could probably work with Trump on things that we could see eye to eye on. Obviously, we don't see eye to eye on everything. Obviously, we support the Democratic nominee for president, likely Hillary Clinton. But, you're going to have to work with him, and there are areas in which you could work together, and a lot of it's the kind of the political reality for them. All three of them are up in 2018. Usually it's not going to be a great map for Senate Democrats. Right now it's a good map for Senate Democrats because of all the, we've got a presidential year, you have all these Republicans running in blue states, but in 2 years it's going to be Republicans running or Democrats running in red states again, and they're going to need Trump voters to basically keep their jobs.
So they say that Trump is a guy they think they could work with. I can't. Based on what? Just the fact that they have no choice, or that's his style, or he's a deal maker, or something?
Some of it's that. I think they do see, perhaps there are kind of, if he's the president of the United States, you're a senator, you're going to have to find kind of the areas in which you could work together. And I actually thought what Tom Carper of Delaware said to me was pretty funny. He says kind of his standard, his kind of work ethic is that you find the 80% of things that you agree on to work together and work on those. And then the 20% you don't agree on, just set aside for another day, for another time. And he said, with the President Trump, it might be more 20-80. It's going to be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
So you kind of really have to search for the places where you can work together.
Did they name any particular issues in which they think he would be, they could form some alliances?
They did not, but however, you could see, perhaps in North Dakota, obviously energy is a big issue. You could see the fact that Trump has not been so consistent on particular issues. You see him kind of going all over the place and taking, obviously, perhaps progressive positions, about raising the minimum wage and whatnot. And I'm sure some Democrats are privately thinking, if that's actually what he believes, then perhaps maybe we could work together.
So is that also true of Republicans in the Senate? Because there's not a lot, he doesn't have a lot of support among Republicans. Some of them, like Ben Sasse from Nebraska, has said not going to support him. No way, no how. Jeff Flake from Arizona, not going to endorse him. He's the party nominee. So what are they saying?
It's actually pretty interesting. Last week, so obviously you have a pretty significant contingent of these so-called never Trump people still in the Senate, even though Trump obviously looks like he's going to be the party's nominee. But even kind of the most ardent anti-Trump people are beginning to soften. And one of the big news last week was that Senator Lindsey Graham, who has said, he's not going to support Trump. He's not going to vote for Hillary either, but he's not going to support Trump. He actually had a phone conversation with Trump last week. And basically, Trump said, I want to pick Senator Graham's brain on foreign policy. He's obviously one of the leading voices in the Republican Party on national defense. They had about a 15 to 20 minute conversation where they talked about, all sorts of national security issues. So, Graham says he's still not voting for Trump, but he's like, you see how Trump got to where he is. He's a charming guy. He's funny. And while I'm not going to support him, I do want to support who the next president's going to be.
How did that call come about, by the way? Do we know?
So Graham says, I believe Graham said he was reached out to by an associate of Trump saying, Trump kind of wants to talk to you about national security policy. Trump tweeted that Graham reached out to him.
Yeah, that's what I know.
So
I remember seeing both sides of that. It's always a question about who called whom, right?
There's probably one who's more correct than the other.
All right. Now, President Obama gave an interview yesterday on Facebook to our friend Chris Geithner. They had a little problem on Facebook getting the video.
The video Facebook Live is still
technical problem.
Yeah,
but the idea that because this is an election year, Republicans should not confirm Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court. President Obama sort of said it really plays, or should play, just the opposite. Here are his comments.
Precisely because this election year has been so crazy. Precisely because you have a number of Republicans who have said that they're concerned about their nominee. It shows you why you don't want to politicize a Supreme Court appointment.
Yeah, don't make it political. Don't let Donald Trump have anything to do with it. Confirm him now. Are Republicans likely to hear what President Obama is saying?
No, not at all. And it's actually pretty interesting, considering how divided the party is over Trump just as the nominee. They are still pretty much fully united behind the fact that if Trump is elected, then he should get to choose. And we've been especially for the people who are uncomfortable with the idea of Trump as the nominee, we've been trying to talk to, well, how do you kind of reconcile, not supporting Trump as your party's nominee and yet, being fine with him selecting the next Supreme Court nominee? We asked Senator Lindsey Graham that last week, and he said, whoever he picks is going to be no worse than who Hillary's going to pick. So that's basically his answer. We've been asking Jeff Flake that as well, and he is now saying he's called for a lame duck confirmation for some time if Republicans don't win the White House. Mm-hmm. But he now also says if it's before the election and it looks like we might lose, then we should confirm Garland. So right. He's kind of modifying his tone a little bit.
Now there will be a hearing.
There will be a quote hearing. Oh. So what Democrats are trying, basically all the strategies in their playbook to try to keep Garland in the headlines, make sure voters haven't forgotten about him, him, make sure that the pressure is still on Republicans to, if not push for an actual confirmation hearing, because since that looks unlikelier by the day, to make sure they feel some political pain for their obstruction. So what Senate Democrats are planning this week is they're planning what they're calling a forum or a meeting where they're inviting 4 people who know Garland personally, who can testify to his character. So there's a former law clerk of Garland who is now a law professor at the University of Chicago. He'll talk about Garland. There is a former Third Circuit judge who can talk about the need to fill that 9th seat on the Supreme Court. So that's going to be obviously the closest you can get to kind of a Garland hearing, because obviously the judge is not going to speak on his behalf about the nomination fight.
But these will be Democratic members of the Judiciary Committee?
Correct.
Yeah. Who's the ranking? Is there Chris
It's
Coons?
Patrick Leahy.
Patrick, of course, Patrick Leahy.
So this was, and it's interesting because the idea of kind of this mock hearing had been tossed around for some time, maybe bringing in Garland himself, but Leahy was very, adamant, saying last week, the Senate is not a pretend office. We're not going to do like a mock hearing for the judge, but this is kind of the next best thing, having having the judge's proxies
and that
speak
is
for him. That
Thursday?
is tomorrow, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
About 11:30 in Dirksen.
Right. Okay. I told you, she's on top of it. She's there.
I have to dig into my brain.
Sungmin Kim from Politico, Politico.com, of course. Take a quick break. We'll be back. You have a question or comment, you know how to do it. 866-55-PRESS.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light, it's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, but the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment, that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead. to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, we'll be joined by Evan McMorris-Santoro from BuzzFeed here at the half hour. When I say we, it's me and Peter Eichburn and Sung Min Kim from Politico. Now, I have to ask you, so you mentioned the Zika virus, right? Okay. Debbie Wasserman Schultz yesterday, who is, in addition to being Democratic National Chair, is still the Congresswoman from Florida, I forget her district down in Florida, and she's made a real cause of this and points out that this was one issue where actually, believe it or not, you can bring members of both parties together.
This is such an urgent issue that Governor Scott, Senator Rubio, President Obama, and myself all agree on it. I'd challenge anyone to find another issue like this that has brought the four disparate ideological individuals together.
Rick Scott and Debbie Wasserman Schultz on the same side, and Marco Rubio. I mean, that is pretty phenomenal. So when are they going to do something?
Yeah, and it's actually, Rubio is the first Senate Republican to endorse President Obama's request for the Zika funding, which is pretty remarkable considering he was running to get his job just a few weeks ago. So Senate's going to have 3 votes today on 3 separate proposals. There's the administration proposal, the $1.9 billion in emergency funding. There's the Republican proposal that's about $1.1 billion that's offset, and then there's a compromise written by Roy Blunt of Missouri and Patty Murray of Washington, obviously Republican Democrat. We think that's the one that's going to go through, but we'll be watching later today.
Right. So it looks like that there will be some funds in the Senate sent into this fight, right?
It's easier said than done. There's a lot of procedural hurdles still left to come, but we'll see.
Too. Yeah. All right. I'm back with Evan McMorris-Santoro.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire
can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown,
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, here we go at 33 minutes after the hour. You bet. Primary day in Kentucky and Oregon. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our studio on Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America. Men and women of the Laborers Union, millions strong under President Terry O'Sullivan. Building a Better America, that is their website, LIUNA, L-I-U-N-A, buildsamerica.org. Joining us now in studio, our friend, frequent co-host here on the show, and a friend of Bill, Evan McMorris-Santoro. He also has his own from BuzzFeed, but he also has his own podcast now. We're a little nervous about the competition, the BuzzFeed Politics Podcast with Evan McMorris-Santoro. You're just, launching all kinds of new
I'm
stuff
multi-platform
here, right?
now. I'm multi-platform now. I was just saying off the air. It's a poor imitation of your show, Bill. So if you want to hear my Bill Press impression, just tune in. You can get it.
Well, you have to be multi-platform today, right?
That's it.
It's a great name too for the podcast. No one knows anything.
No one knows anything. The purpose of the podcast is, I think this has been a cycle.
That's right. Yeah.
It's been a cycle where we have a lot of conventional wisdom has been turned on its head.
Yeah.
And the idea of the show is to sort of explore that. We do sort of general audience stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I do love that. No one knows anything. Right?
Yeah.
Especially me.
Well, you do. Well, no, especially me, your host on the podcast. You know a lot.
All right. So we know.
Peter, not that much.
We know that today is a big day, not because there's primaries in Kentucky and Oregon. Today is a big day because this is the day of the Megyn Kelly interview with Donald Trump.
Yes, it is. It's going to be big.
Have you ever seen such publicity and promotion around anybody as you have around Megyn Kelly? I mean, big profile in the Post this morning. Yesterday was the New York Times. She said, or maybe it was Sunday, the New York Times, that this is going to be making her the next Barbara Waters or the next Oprah Winfrey, this interview.
It's sort of an interesting.
Who's running for president?
Well, it's interesting. Right. This has been interesting about this cycle because Megyn Kelly and Donald Trump have sort of had these twin tracks. They've been battling back and forth. Megyn Kelly's done a lot of good sort of things on debate stages and stuff where she's paired with him. But I always remember with Megyn Kelly this moment that she did, and it's hard. You do a lot of live stuff on air. People say weird stuff on air, but there was this time that she had these people on talking about this debate about Santa Claus and whether or not what Santa Claus was, sort of like some schools or something were doing something where they're having different Santa Claus or different races, and she just blurts out like, "Don't worry, kid, Santa Claus is white." Yeah. It's a very strange thing. Yeah. So Megyn Kelly, Megyn Kelly's an interesting character because she's one of these people she's really an excellent interviewer. I mean, she really, when she gets down with these,
she's a tough interviewer.
With these people, she really pushes it out.
Yeah.
But she has, she's also has an interesting history of her own too. So it's interesting kind of dichotomy. So her and Trump together should be interesting to see the two of them.
What's going to come out of this interview tonight? Is there going to be any breaking news? Is Trump going to break down and say, "I'm sorry"? What do you think? What do you expect?
I don't think that's going to happen. I think that it's going to be. I mean, Fox has already transitioned into treating Trump very carefully, right? Like now that he is the presumptive nominee. Right, like they don't want to piss him off. Yeah. A lot of their coverage now has been a lot less sharp than it had been when it was possible he might not be the nominee. And I don't think she's going to come at him with haymakers.
But by the way, isn't it already done? I mean, isn't this interview in the can? No, or is it going to be live?
I don't know. Actually, I actually don't know.
I think they
must have already done it.
I think they did it. I think,
but nothing is leaked. But nothing is leaked.
Well, that's my point. Is if there were something combustible, right? Yeah. Explosive, it would have leaked.
I think you're
right.
They
would have leaked it, right?
The larger question here is what is going to be combustible. I'm sure you also have talked about this on this show a lot lately, and I have not been able to tune in as much as I would like to, but I'm sure you've talked about this a lot. The issue with Trump is this idea, like, what is combustible, right? What is the big thing? No, Megyn Kelly has put Trump on his heels several times. I mean, on the debate stage, when she hit him with all the things he said about Rosie O'Donnell and all these other women, and right to his face on that debate, and he gets bright red, and then he goes on TV the next day and has a whole thing about blood coming out of, like, she has gotten him several times. The issue is it had zero impact in the long run on his with his own base anyway.
Yeah, he's the nominee.
Right.
Presumptive.
A lot of campaigns have been suspended, Bill. You never know.
But so I'm going to be doing CNN tonight, talking about Kentucky and Oregon, and I have a suspicion that we may spend as much time talking about Kelly and Trump.
Well, how does this work? Are you going to have like a little TV off the screen? Are you going to be able to watch it on air tonight? How does that work? How do you guys do that?
I'm not on till midnight, dude.
Oh, all right.
So it'll be after
dark.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
All right. Now
you'll have had a few haymakers by then.
Are you gonna go with a tie or no tie? By the way, no tie after midnight, right? That's the rule.
My rule is no tie on the weekends.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it. All right. I want you to see this right here.
Okay.
Know what this is?
That is your absentee ballot
in California.
All right.
Guess who I vote for here?
For those of you at home, don't zoom in on Bill's home address.
Oh, that's right.
Showing to everybody.
Yeah, right. Here's my absentee ballot in Chalk one up for Bernie Sanders. Yes, indeed. Right. So, what do you expect out of? You were on the road with Bernie a long time. You didn't go. I noticed you didn't go to Puerto Rico with him, but
unfortunately, I would have liked to.
I know. What do you expect? What do we expect out of Oregon and Kentucky?
Well, it's interesting. Well, these two races are very interesting because Oregon is obviously the kind of place where you expect Bernie to do very well. He's done very well in those places before. He had one of his, I think his sole Senate endorser is Jeff Merkley out of Oregon. So this is a place where I think the Sanders campaign can reasonably expect they're going to do very well tonight. Kentucky is interesting because it's this place that's supposed to be Clinton country. I mean, if you remember during the 2014 Senate race, Alison Lonergan Grimes is the daughter of one of the political figures there who's really close with Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton was constantly on the campaign trail out there.
And I think Bill Clinton won Kentucky both times.
I think that's right.
Yeah,
I think that's right. But now, as we saw in West Virginia, places like Kentucky are places where Bernie also does very well.
Yeah.
So I think, it's important to remember that, there isn't a lot of there's a lot of chance that it changes the sort of nomination math in terms of what happens tonight, but the Bernie people like you who are feeling it are hoping to have influence at the convention and hoping to have influence over the Democratic Party and the Democratic Party after the election, and winning states like he might do 2 tonight only helps to make that case.
Which will make 4 in a row.
Right.
Which would make 4 in a row.
That's right.
Yes, I just double checking. I've seen it this morning. Bill Clinton took Kentucky, won Kentucky in both 92 and 96, and Hillary trounced Barack Obama there in 2008, like she did in West Virginia.
Yeah.
But, it's basically a white working class state where Bernie has done well. And I think it's a closed primary, however. It is a closed primary.
So that does change a lot of things.
Exactly. That works in her favor. So could go.
So that's something to watch tonight.
I don't know what Real Clear Politics is saying, but I've seen polls that show Clinton ahead and polls that show Bernie ahead. So,
it's interesting because what you mentioned with this closed primary, open primary thing. There's been I've done a lot of reporting on this Democratic nomination process, and to me, I think one of the most interesting stories coming out of this whole run of Bernie Sanders is I think there might be an actual conversation in Philadelphia at the National Convention about this nomination process. People are really upset about it. Actually, you can't find anybody on either side who's really thrilled with how it works.
Yeah.
Caucuses, closed primaries, open primaries. Some people you can vote absentee in some caucuses you can't. Sometimes you can vote early in some states, sometimes you can't. I mean, I find that a fascinating part of this election.
I have had Clinton people approach me, more than one, to say that one area that we could work together on and come together on in terms of unifying the party in Philadelphia, which I don't think is going to be that serious. Bernie's going to endorse Hillary. She's a nominee, vice versa. But they've said areas that we could work together on is 1, closed primaries, 2, caucuses, and 3, superdelegates. Mm-hmm. Hillary's not crazy about the superdelegate process. It's working to her advantage now, but in 2008, she got screwed by it, right? So those are 3 areas. I'm just saying you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The process. And the system is rigged. Look what happened in Nevada over the weekend, which was a reflection kind of the DNC toward the Sanders campaign.
Well, it's I don't. There's a lot of interesting stories coming out of Nevada. I think there's a lot of stuff that's not bathing the Sanders people in glory either.
The way some of the Sanders people reacted is outrageous, right? But also the way they were treated is outrageous. That they shut that down basically and said, "No, we're not going to. This is it. Boom." That Hillary person who's the chair of the party just said, "No, we're going to take it and run and screw you."
Well, I don't want to digress on this too much. You were a superdelegate at one time, were you not, Bill?
Yes and no. Meaning I was because I was chair of the California Democratic Party, but I left to join CNN before the convention, so I never got to actually act as a superdelegate.
Oh man, I wanted to know how that process was like. Like they give you like a big key or something like. But I mean, when you were superdelegate, what did you feel like you had some sort of obligation to represent something? What did you think you represented when that was something that was a part of your life? I mean, you're head of the Democratic Party.
No, you know why?
Yeah,
because it was Clinton's reelect.
Right.
Nobody ran against him.
Right. So it didn't really matter.
So there was no contest. Right. So it was never a question. Right.
Yeah.
But I do believe. Okay, if you have an honorific title, you're mayor, you're governor, you're chair of the party, I understand you get a free ticket to the convention. You don't have to go out and run as a delegate, right? You're automatically a delegate.
Sure.
But I do believe you should have to follow the will of the people of your state. There should be some accountability.
I think you might see some conversations about that. I mean, people. I think the one thing I can say about this is that the politicians who are superdelegates are not liking having to face the wrath of their constituents who don't like the way that they're voting as superdelegates, and they don't want that on the table. They want that off the table.
Tough apples, baby.
I know, right. but I mean, I'm saying, but this is a chance to actually change the system because whether or not they'll change their votes on what Bernie Sanders people are saying, they'll definitely be like, look, I don't want to deal with this next time.
This idea
I have to worry about this election.
Sacred cows or sacred bulls, I think, is BS. Evan McMorris said, "It's too bad on the radio. You can't say what you really want to say."
Come on the podcast, Bill.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We'll be right back with Evan and you.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you, the last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue. Dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
Candidates straight with your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
What do you say? 12 minutes before the top of the hour. It's the Bill Press Show. We are live on your local progressive talk radio station. We are live on Free Speech TV with Evan McMorris Santoro from BuzzFeed and his new podcast, no one knows anything, the BuzzFeed. Where do you find it?
Anywhere you get podcasts. So go to iTunes or just Google No One Knows Anything podcast. It's on Twitter at No One Knows. It's all over the place. It's very, very easy to find.
Can you download go to it? BuzzFeed.com?
Yeah.
Is there a link on BuzzFeed?
Yeah, /podcast, I think. Or you can go to my bio, BuzzFeed.com/Evan McSan. Thank you for letting me pitch it so much. It's everywhere. We have 4 episodes. We have 4.5 episodes in the can now. It's good.
All right. Yeah. So, all right, here's the question. New York Times reporting this morning that Donald Trump is already figuring out how he's going to approach the first debate. Little to be off limits as Trump plans attack on Clinton's character. And the first line of attack that Donald Trump plans, and this, by the way, this was confirmed to me yesterday when a reporter from a conservative publication called me for a comment. Do I think this line of attack will work? Which is go after Bill Clinton for his sexual affairs and go after Hillary Clinton for enabling those affairs and for herself being part of the attacks on the women who accused Bill Clinton. Will that line of attack work or will it backfire?
they tried some of this before, and they did have a decent week when they did it over this Juanita Broderick person specifically.
Yeah.
Which is a very rough story and a lot of accusations flying around.
In
terrible
this
story.
campaign, you're saying they tried it.
Trump tried it for a little while, but this was during the heat of the primary, and Hillary Clinton was not really ready to sort of push back at that point. Trump has this is a tough leg for him to stand on with a particular issue.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
People who live in glass houses should not throw stones, as they say, right?
Also, Republicans went all in on Clinton's character when I was in high school in 1998, and Newt Gingrich lost his speakership because of it. So I mean, I'm not sure that we are more puritanical now in a way that's going to be a problem.
We were talking about that a little bit earlier. This is now 20 years ago, right? It was 98, almost 18 years ago.
Right.
How many people, people who do, I think, people who do remember it have dealt with it, right, and don't want to revisit it. And there are a lot of young people today who are voting today who have no idea, right? They've heard about it maybe, but they didn't live through it. Do they care?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the voters, right, the voters weren't, like if you're a first-time voter, right, you weren't alive when this happened. If you're a reporter who's covering the story, you're 28, 29, 30, right, you were very young when this was happening. It's not something that you grew up covering or came up covering or something like that. It's just such old news, and they're both still in the public spotlight. They haven't been chased out or anything. So
Bill Clinton was
would the
never more
argument
popular as president than he was during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, because people saw it as unfair that he was being impeached for a personal
Look,
offense.
It's a classic campaign tactic to sort of go after your opponent's strength. In this case, Hillary Clinton being a woman, and try to tear that down, right? Like so that's fine. But I think what's more interesting about what the Trump people are talking about is trying to hitch their wagon to this populist message that and try to attack Hillary that way. Like, you've seen that be more successful. But I don't think that this kind of purient stuff is going to be what's going to do it. I don't know. I mean, who knows? This crazy election. But I feel like, based on my reporting when I was out there the Bernie-Hillary primary has gotten pretty rough at times. And when I was out there talking to Bernie voters, they didn't really have anything bad to say about Hillary Clinton personally. Like, this stuff was not part of on their radar either. Obviously, they're more likely to be Democratic voters.
She's too tied to Wall Street, or she's not bold enough, right? Or she's too ready to compromise, but not the personal stuff.
This is the one thing everybody knows about Bill Clinton. Right,
yeah.
And it's the one thing that it's not. Yeah, it's been talked about to death. So I don't know.
All right. So your next podcast is with Al Franken,
Senator Al Franken. We interviewed him last week. One of his first and longest national interviews since becoming a senator. We talked about a lot of stuff. Talked about Donald Trump. Talked about what he thinks about the delegate process. Talked about what he thinks about Bernie Sanders supporters. Talked about what he thinks about pot legalization. It's coming out on Thursday morning. Subscribe to No One Knows Anything podcast and download it.
All right, there you go. You got it. Thanks, man. Great to see you.
Thank you. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Happy primary day. I'll be back with today's quick parting shot.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, "Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap." But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation, get married, give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. They will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
Forest Service and
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, it didn't make much news, but a front-page New York Times article caught my attention. The headline says it all. For a president, 2 full terms of fighting wars. Yep. First paragraph points out that President Obama came into office, as we remember, vowing to end the wars started by President Bush. Didn't quite work out that way. On May the 6th, Obama passed a sober milestone. He has now been at war longer than George Bush or any other American president in history. Think about that. As I point out in my new book, Buyer's Remorse, when President Obama took the oath of office, we were at war in Iraq and Afghanistan. He tried to end them both, but not only do those 2 wars continue today, we're now in the middle of a 3rd war in Syria, which means President Obama will leave office as the only president in American history to serve 2 complete terms in the Oval Office while the nation was at war the whole time. That is a legacy nobody could be proud of. And that's my parting shot for today, folks. Have a great Tuesday. We'll talk about Kentucky and Oregon tomorrow with John Allen.
This is The Bill Press Show.